Dubai's history is often told as a miracle of speed, but its architectural story is better understood as a sequence of calculated adaptations to geography, trade, climate, and ambition. Long before glass towers and artificial islands reshaped its coastline, Dubai existed as a modest settlement defined by sand, water, and survival. Every phase of its construction reflects a response to its environment and its moment in history. The earliest Dubai formed around Dubai Creek. Geography dictated everything. The creek provided shelter from the Gulf's harsh currents and created a natural harbor that allowed small trading vessels to anchor safely. Early architecture was functional and restrained. Coral stone, palm fronds, gypsum. Buildings were low, narrow, designed to resist heat rather than display power. Wind towers, known as bargeal, became defining features. These structures captured passing air and funneled it downward, cooling interiors naturally. The city grew inward, compact, human-scaled, organized around courtyards and shaded alleys. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Dubai's identity was shaped by maritime trade and pearl diving. Architecture remained modest, but density increased. Warehouses lined the creek, homes clustered near water access. Construction followed necessity, not vision. The city expanded slowly, limited by technology and resources. Geography was still the dominant architect. The collapse of the pearl industry in the 1930s nearly erased Dubai's economic base. This period left little architectural legacy, but it hardened the city's survival mindset. When oil was discovered in the 1960s, the architectural language changed abruptly. Oil revenue introduced reinforced concrete, asphalt roads, planned zoning. The city began to stretch outward from the creek, breaking free from its traditional boundaries. The 1970s marked Dubai's first vertical ambitions. Early modernist buildings rose along Sheikh Zayed Road. Functional towers, government offices, hotels. Architecture borrowed heavily from international modernism, but scale began to matter more than style. Roads widened, infrastructure expanded. The desert was no longer a limit. It became a blank canvas. By the 1980s and 1990s, Dubai shifted from oil dependency toward a trade and service economy. Free zones like Jebel Ali redefined urban planning. Industrial architecture grew massive. Ports expanded. Warehouses stretched horizontally across the desert. The city became polycentric. Not one downtown, but several economic nodes connected by highways. The late 1990s introduced a deliberate architectural identity. Iconic construction replaced anonymous modernism. The Burj Al Arab emerged not as a building, but as a symbol. Its sail-shaped form announced Dubai's new strategy. Architecture as branding. Hotels became landmarks. Malls became cities within cities. Air-conditioned interiors replaced public streets as social centers, responding again to climate but now through technology rather than tradition. The 2000s transformed Dubai into a vertical experiment. The Burj Khalifa redefined scale itself. Not just the tallest building, but a statement of engineering supremacy. Surrounding developments followed a master-planned logic. Artificial lakes, controlled sightlines, mixed-use towers arranged as self-contained ecosystems. Geography was no longer natural. It was engineered. Simultaneously, Dubai reshaped its coastline. Palm Jumeirah, the world islands, land reclaimed from the sea. These projects altered geography itself, extending the city outward into the Gulf. Architecture became speculative. Villas aligned along artificial curves. Luxury dictated layout. Nature became adjustable. After the 2008 financial crisis, construction slowed, but did not reverse. Architecture became more cautious, more sustainable in language, if not always in practice. New districts emphasized density. Transit-oriented development emerged. Metro stations reshaped urban flow. Glass facades evolved into shaded skins. Efficiency regained importance. Today, Dubai's architecture reflects layered intentions. Futuristic museums coexist with preserved heritage districts like Al Fahidi. Smart cities rise beside restored wind towers. The skyline is not unified by style, but by ambition. Every era remains visible. Coral stone beside steel, desert beside sea, tradition beside speculation. Before the skyline, before the towers, before oil and aviation and artificial islands. Dubai was a coastal settlement built by fishermen, pearl divers, traders, and craftsmen who understood the desert and the sea better than any architect ever could. The earliest communities in the Dubai area were tribal groups moving between desert and coast. Life was seasonal, inland during the cooler months, coastal during fishing and pearling seasons. These were not city builders in the modern sense. They were survival experts. They built only what they needed, and they built it with what was available. The real formation of Dubai as a town began in the 18th and early 19th centuries around Dubai Creek. The creek mattered more than any ruler. It created safe anchorage in a coastline otherwise exposed to the Gulf. Boats could dock, goods could be unloaded, fish could be processed, trade could happen. The Al Maktoum family, part of the Bani Yas tribal confederation, established political leadership in the 19th century. But leadership alone does not build a city. It was the fishermen who worked the waters daily, the pearl divers who risked their lives in extreme depths, the boat builders who shaped wooden dhows by hand, the traders who navigated between Persia, India, East Africa, and the Arabian coast. These were the true structural forces behind early Dubai. The architecture reflected their reality. Homes were built from coral stone cut from the sea. Walls were thick to block heat. Roofs were made from palm trunks and fronds. Gypsum sealed joints. There was no ornament for decoration's sake. Beauty came from proportion and necessity. Wind towers appeared in merchant houses, especially among wealthier trading families. These structures captured air and funneled it downward, cooling interiors long before electricity. Narrow alleys reduced sun exposure. Courtyards provided privacy and airflow. Everything responded to climate. Nothing was wasted. Construction was manual. Local masons shaped coral blocks by hand. Carpenters worked without modern machinery. Labor was physical and communal. Buildings were not designed on paper. They were shaped by memory and inherited technique. Dubai's early economy revolved around pearling. Entire neighborhoods were tied to that industry. During pearling season, large segments of the male population left for months at sea. The town would quiet, then return to life when boats came back loaded with oysters. Wealth fluctuated dramatically depending on harvest quality. When the global pearl market collapsed in the 1930s due to cultured pearls from Japan and economic downturns worldwide, Dubai suffered deeply. Many families lost their primary income. Construction slowed. Some buildings deteriorated. The city did not grow much during this period. It endured. Dubai's architectural history is not a straight line. It is a series of reinventions driven by geography, technology, and urgency. The city was never meant to grow slowly. It was designed to respond, to adapt, to accelerate. In Dubai, architecture is not merely construction. It is policy, identity, survival. If the first phase of Dubai's history was about survival, and the second about acceleration. The next chapter is about consolidation. Not simply building higher or farther, but structuring permanence into a city that was once defined by speed. Dubai's recent architectural evolution reveals a deliberate shift from spectacle to system, from iconic forms to integrated urban ecosystems. One of the most significant transformations occurred beneath the skyline rather than within it.